So we're going to discuss what exactly transpired in May of 2021 now that we've entered the beautiful month of June. We're starting to get hopefully some measures. We've seen some changes. I mean, June 1st, we saw the back, what is it, lockdown? Not lockdown. Your stay-at-home order is expired, which has repercussions in the real estate community, which we'll talk about here as well today. But things are starting to look brighter and nicer. Get outside a little bit, But what about the housing market? Is it also warming up? No, my friend. It's actually cooling. We're going to talk about where we're seeing that today. But I thought, as we've come through the heat of the housing market over the last few months, I thought, what better article to kind of set the tone for the show today than out of theatlantic.com. Listen to this quote. A Bethesda, Maryland, so this is out of the States, resident recently included in her written offer, quote, a pledge to name her firstborn child after the seller. According to the CEO of realty site Redfin, so wild, she did not get the house. What do you mean it didn't work? It didn't even work. Come on. Opportunity to brand yourself, no? We like to keep the Watson Estates thing alive. Maybe if they name their kid Watson. I don't know. I don't need extra $10,000. The name thing sounds pretty cool, no? But in Toronto, May 2021, the market does appear to be cooling. We're going to start with a Globe and Mail article called Toronto Housing Market Cools Down in May as Exhausted Buyers Take a Break. Here's what they say. Toronto's housing market slowed in May, the second straight month in declining sales as buyer fatigue set in and prices fell in two areas outside the city. We're going to talk about those in a second. Where is that? But it was still just looking over from the, high level. It was above the 10-year average for May, but 12.5% lower than April. Talking about sales, number of sales. We'll talk about price in a second. But in the city itself, Toronto, as well as areas west and north and east, sales all declined by, get this, double digits. Woo! According to Treb. Treb's going to be releasing those stats to you very shortly in the next couple of days, hopefully before the weekend, but who knows these days. In the previous month, sales fell by 14%. So we're starting to see a dropping in sales activity coming down. What is this? Kind of odd given the season. But across the Toronto area, the average selling price reached a record high. So prices are still on the way up, increasing year over year, 30%. How ridiculous is that? The pace of price increase was about 2% month over month. So we got 30% over the course of the year. But over the last month in May, we see only this minor, pathetic increase of 2% month over month. Slower than earlier this year, obviously. Obviously. But notice the price, we see sales coming down, but we don't see the price dropping. It's just not rising as fast, which in my opinion is great news, right? Fantastic news. So we're going to look at some of Realosophy's monthly findings as well, just to kind of add on to some of these overarching stats. So here's what they say. New listings are also seeing a downward trend since March. New listings even. Interesting, which again is not typical, kind of pointing to maybe we had an earlier spring, which we were describing to you the last few months. But the spike in new listings in March suggests the exuberance early in the year may have pulled some new listings forward, which is now resulting in month over month declines. In other words, yes, we're in May, which should be kind of the peak of the spring, but let's face it, spring came early this year. This isn't a normal year. So we're starting to experience an early summer. What do you mean? People want to go outside, experience the beautiful weather, get out there. Who wants to look at houses? Indoors activities are better done earlier in the spring. But active listings are still well below 2018 and 2019 levels. Interesting. This is almost entirely driven by low-rise housing. Active listings for condos are similar to the levels we saw in 2018, 2019. So we still see the majority of the pressure in these low-rise communities. We're going to dive deeper into the condo space, especially if you're a condo owner. You're not going to want to miss it. But overall, the data still points to a very hot housing market with roughly 1 month of inventory. Guys, super low. 1 month across the GTA, houses and condos. But on the ground, we are seeing a very mixed market. Many houses are getting fewer showings and fewer offers than months ago. I don't know any of you guys. I know I'm not crying over the several multiple offers, bidding wars, people saying, I'll name my kid after you for goodness sake, and still losing. I think that's better left in the history books. But my expectation was harder times would be ahead for cottage cities. If you followed my show, that's kind of been my thought. If there's a bubble, I'm even in, Real Estate Wealth Magazine saying if there's a bubble, though I don't think there is, but if there was, it would be in cottage countries, Well, guess what? We're seeing that in the May stats. In Simcoe, north of the city and closer to Cottage Country, the home price index dropped month over month 6%. 6% drop in the home price index, the CPI. Interesting. But everyone seems convinced cottages will go up by double digits forever, right? Forever. Perpetual. Well, as the dentist said in court, you can't handle the tooth. Boy, I've got some good tooth jokes today. Better brace yourself. But moving on to some of the other cities, we see in Halton, home prices fell 5%. They're the other loser in the equation. But when we look across the board, generally we see kind of flat or increasing. We see York is up 2% month over month. Durham, Northwest Peel, they're either flat or slightly up. But when you ask Treb, looking forward, you're going to see this in a lot of the quotes that are going to come out from Treb in the next few days. Treb predicted that home prices would continue to rise with listings down month over month, including for condos in the city of Toronto. The average price of a condo fell by 1% in May after climbing for 3 consecutive months. It's about time. I'd say we're due for that appointment. I'll tell you, dentists are really good at keeping an appointment. Side note, not in the script, but just a side note. May we all, as salespeople, be that adamant of having someone walk in our office. BlogTO.com had an article specifically focused on condos. It reads, hardly anybody is buying condos in downtown Toronto anymore. That's the name of the article. Here's what it says. New data from May, courtesy of condo listing site Strata, shows that sales, so we're going to start with sales, then we're going to get into price. Sales in the region are down again after a flurry of activity from late 2020 into the first few months of the year. The number of condos switching hands was up this May compared to the same month last year, given the fact that it was fairly early days of the pandemic last year. No duh, easy target to beat. But compared to a very hot March, only a couple months ago, sales numbers were down a whopping, get this, 23%. Wow. March, April, May, 23%. My goodness, big drops off in the number of sales. What about price? Well, prices also were slightly down. Actually, we're at $1,066 per square foot, which is still crazy high in downtown in May compared to what was $1,091 per square foot in April. So we also see price on a per square foot basis dropping over the last month or two. Here we go. Yet for some reason, they keep building small condos. Why do builders do that? Well, maybe the answer is here in a post from Dr. Mike P. Moffat, who said in the quote, why are there so many one-bedroom units being built in my city file, says in just 3 years, listen to this, the number of international students rose in the GTA by 50,000, which is crazy, in Kitchener, Waterloo, Cambridge, 12,000, in London and Ottawa, 7,000, and in Windsor and St. Catharines, 5,000. So we're seeing... We have a big call for massive immigration, but we're seeing a large number coming to our city, the GTA, the GTHA, these amounts going directly into school. International students, maybe a leading cause of some of this immigration that we're experiencing. But with 50,000 international students coming to the GTA over 3 years, it shouldn't shock you that rent rates are beginning to climb again. And we're tracking that as well. But you know what is surprising? A local dentist was arrested recently for dealing drugs. I'd been going to him for 6 years and never knew he was a dentist.